Power to the Princess, Star and the 12 Dancers. Once upon a time, there lived a king who was devoted to his 12 incredible children. The princes and princesses kept him wonderfully busy, but as they grew older, the king was faced with a mystery. Each morning, when he opened the bedchamber doors to rouse his children, he was met with a perplexing sight. The floor was strewn with dance shoes of all kinds, ballet slippers, point shoes, tap shoes, sticky socks, clogs, shoes with bells, heels, and sneakers. Sweaty dance clothes rested in piles on the floor, and the trash can overflowed with bandage wrappers and dripping ice packs melting in the morning sun. On top of the mess, the children looked more tired than they had at bedtime. Waking them up for the day was difficult, and keeping them awake throughout meals, studies, and social occasions proved impossible. As the children approached adulthood, the situation only got worse, so the king published an announcement. He offered a generous prize to anyone who could discover what was keeping his children from sleep at night. Many different people responded: detectives and fortune tellers, doctors and nurses, astrologers, fairy godmothers, and wizards, but no one could solve the mystery. Each stayed the night outside the royal bedroom, drank a cup of bedtime punch, and in the morning awake, yawning, unable to say what had happened during the night. The king was left deeply disappointed and worried about his children. How could they reach their full potential if they were so tired all the time? One day, a man named Enrico saw the poster advertising the award. Enrico was down on his luck. He used to work as a ballet master for a small seaside dance troupe and had nursed great hopes of discovering a fleet of promising dancers. But the truth was, he just couldn't find any new talent. Soon the ballet had closed. Saddened by the loss of his job and dreams, Enrique decided to try his luck at the palace. On his way, Enrico passed a roadside peddler preparing to close for the day. On the table next to them lay a lonely-looking cloak. Enrico felt sorry for the peddler and made an offer of a few pieces of silver for the cloak. The peddler straightened to reveal a regal person of many seasons with a sprinkling of glitter where their hair should have been. "Thank you, traveler. I should like that very much," they replied. "No need to wrap it. I can just wear it," Enrico said with a smile. The peddler laughed. "I don't know if you'd want to do that. This cloak is special. It will make you invisible." Enrico's eyes widened. "Well, that could come in handy. I am on my way to solve the mystery of the 12 tired princes and princesses." "I'll send you on with a word of wisdom, then," regarded the peddler. "Don't drink the punch." Enrico smiled and set off on his way. Upon arriving at the castle, Enrico was given a warm welcome with dinner and a roaring fire. Afterward, he was led to his chambers next door to the princes and princesses to greet them before bedtime. First came pepper, clove, ginger, and chive. They were followed by cassia, basil, dill, and rosemary. Then it was coriander, fennel, and nigella. Last came star anise. "Ah," said Star, "before we turn in, we'll all have some punch. Cheers to a good night's rest." Star placed the cup at the threshold. "I don't," Enrico started, but Star had already closed the door that divided the two bedchambers. Enrico thought he could hear giggling from the princes and princesses on the other side. Enrico retrieved the cup from the floor and swirled it around. He often had a drink of warm milk before bed and went to send the punch down the hatch. But then the words of the peddler came to him: "Don't drink the punch." Enrico looked around the room for a sink or a basin, but all he saw was a small potted plant. He poured the contents of the cup into the plant, and as he did so, Enrico thought he heard music and bells coming from the prince's and princess's chamber. Enrico raced to the door and peered through the keyhole. What he saw on the other side took his breath away. A panel in the center of the floor had been taken up to reveal a downward flight of gleaming silver stairs. The princes and princesses were lined up at the top and had started to parade down them. Each was dressed for dancing, some in specialized shoes, some in bare feet, some in leather slippers, and others in heeled shoes of all styles. One pair of shoes, Ginger's, were wrapped with bells. "That must be what I heard," thought Enrico. As the last of the group approached the stairs, Enrico jumped into action. He fetched the cloak from the hook, slipped it around his shoulders, shimmied through the door between the two chambers, and sprinted down the silver stairs. Moments before the floor closed above him, he stumbled a little in the dark and nearly ran into Star. Feeling a nudge, Star asked her siblings in alarm, "Did someone step on my heels?" And they just rolled their eyes. As Enrico's eyes adjusted, he could see before them a boulevard lined with trees of silver with shimmering leaves. It was a spectacular sight. The bouncing lantern lights made it look like the inside of a snow globe. As the music grew around him, Enrico went to put a few silver leaves in his pocket, but one slipped through his fingers and dropped to the ground with a clatter. The group turned toward the sound, but Enrico stood perfectly still, disguised in his cloak, and no one saw a thing. The music grew louder now, and before Enrico's eyes, the silver boulevard pulsed into gold. Gilded birds filled the trees, and the path looked as if it was a broad streak of sunset. As they continued, Enrico reached up to touch the branch of a nearby tree. He pulled his hand away, and it glittered gold. No one would believe him if he spoke of these marvels, so he snapped off a small branch discreetly. Soon the group reached a promenade of diamonds, bordering the edge of a lake with a fleet of rowboats. Enrico stopped to gap and knelt down to scoop a few stones into his pocket. So when he arrived at the boats, they were already filled with the princes and princesses. He jumped into the last boat before it pulled away from shore. It happened to be the boat carrying Star. "Does the boat feel heavier this evening?" Star asked nervously. "Oh, it might just be a heavy moon tonight," Chive responded. Soon the boats came ashore on an island that held a grand pavilion. It shone like a bright star lit with candles. In the center, a rowdy band played music one couldn't help but dance to. It had a throbbing rhythm like a heartbeat, a bright brass section, a smooth melodic segment, and expressive vocals. Enrico stood on the outskirts of the dance floor and watched, mesmerized, as each of the princes and princesses proved to be a unique and wonderful dancer. Some waltzed, others pranced, a pair glided across the floor like swans, others drummed their feet and shook their bodies. Some rehearsed set dances, while others let the music lead them. Enrico too swayed to the music and nodded his head with the beat. He closed his eyes and let himself fill with the energy of the room. Enrico was so carried away he dropped his souvenirs, and they fell with a clatter to the floor. In an instant, the music halted, and all eyes fell to the strange pile at Enrico's feet. "What's that?" questioned Pepper. "It looks like a collection," said Dill. "Of stuff from the Enchanted Path," said Fennel. "But who would make such a collection?" speculated Coriander. "A guest, that's who," muttered Pepper. "Has anyone invited a guest?" asked Clove. "The mystery solver," said Ginger. "You gave him the punch that all our other guests received, didn't you, Star?" Pepper asked, eyes wide. "I offered the punch, but I can't say I actually saw him drink it," Star confessed. At that moment, Enrico discarded his cloak. Everybody gasped. "I'm sorry," apologized Enrico. "I only wanted to follow the music. I was in the ballet, you see, and I long for dance." The siblings looked distraught, but Star stepped right up to Enrico and said, "Will you help us conceal our secret?" Enrico pondered the matter. "I was mesmerized. You all dance so wonderfully. I will help you if you like, but why must you conceal your talents? This world was hidden from us, buried beneath the floor. It's surely forbidden, and our father would seal it up if he ever found out," Pepper exclaimed. "Not if he saw you dance!" exclaimed Enrico. And with that, he gathered his pile of souvenirs and raced back to the palace, the rest of the siblings behind him. Enrico and the princes and princesses burst through the bedchamber doors just as the sun was rising, waking the king with all the commotion. "Heavens, what's this? A party at dawn?" the king shouted. "Allow me to explain," Enrico began. "Your children are drowsy all day because at night they do not sleep a wink. Instead, they pass beneath their chamber into a magical land paved with silver and gold. They cross a diamond-ringed lake and dance the night away on an island." The king laughed and laughed. He shook and giggled and slapped his knee. But then Enrico drew forth his hands to reveal the silver leaf, the golden branch, and diamonds, and moved so that the king could see the silver steps behind him. The king quieted and examined the souvenirs with surprise. "Dance, you say? What do my children know about dance? We haven't even a ballroom in this castle." "I think you might need one, sir. Your children are some of the finest, most innovative, and daring dancers I've seen in a great while. Before I had to close my ballet, sir, I dreamed of finding talent such as your children possess." The king looked to the entire group with awe, and his skepticism turned to pride. Star stepped forward bravely. "Would you let us dance at home, father?" "So long as you always get a good night's sleep," the king grinned. The king suggested as a reward for Enrico to be the royal ballet master, and Enrico was thrilled to support the young dancers. The silver stairs were made permanent, and when the children left home, a great theater was built in place of their former bedchamber. It became home to a new royal dance company named Silver Steps, and each year the company performed a repertoire of dance from all reaches of the kingdom. A favorite was the dance of the invisible cloak, in which Star had a solo, and Enrico often made a surprise appearance.